This episode of The Answer is Yes Baja Sessions is brought to you by Baja Bound Insurance Services. Driving to Mexico? You can buy and print out your Mexican auto insurance policy online in minutes with their easy-to-use website. They also have great travel information to help you plan your trip south of the border. Visit bajabound.com, the easiest way to get Mexican auto insurance.
Hello and welcome to Baja Sessions. This is The Answer is Yes podcast, and my name is Jim Riley, your host. Thanks for tuning in. I am at Baja headquarters with Cameron Steele. What's happening, buddy?
Yeah, buddy. We're having fun, hanging out, talking Baja. That's what we're doing here.
I'm actually happy to be here because I saw some of your posts, and I got people posting fish logistics. I'm like, what is this place? So I'm happy to be down here to see what it is. It's pretty incredible.
Thank you. It's a passion project, like the racing and everything else. But now we get to share with friends, old and new, not just the trips to Baja, but now we have a location where they can come build their trucks, buy any accessory. We can set it up for them. And, what's crazy is it has the same flavor and feeling, which was the idea, as going to Baja on a trip, because they're here to talk about Baja, here to talk about setup for their truck, talking about locations, and just the energy is like, psh. Really, I
was here 2 minutes and saw all kinds of off-road buddies that I hadn't seen for a while. So it's almost like a reunion opportunity too.
Well, that's part of it. We have these couches and tables and the bar set up, and we want people to come in and hang out. You don't have to just come buy something. You can come and just tell lies.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the basis of what Baja's all about, right? I mean, we were going this fast and leading by this much. And, there was the whole, just every story you can tell, we'll tell it. And then the Baja story just grows every time you tell it, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the vibe.
I love how on Instagram posts after a race, everybody was winning their race.
For sure.
Right. I was winning up until, like, it's always the up until happened.
We've had some of those posts in the last couple of years, which is really honoring to be able to run up front. It's a lot of work, and I can tell you the pace in the trophy truck is incredible now. There's no layup for a mile.
Yeah.
It's like on the whole time.
Yeah. Well, I was listening to you back there. We raced together for a couple of years, and we did well, but we were nowhere near where you're at today. And I'm listening to your time splits and how you're explaining, the perfection of the race being mapped out in advance. I'm like, that is an entirely different level than I've even listened to from the outside.
Yeah, it's gotten very serious. I mean, we've been very serious about racing for a decade. When we first bought the Geyser truck in 2007, that's 12 years almost now. But it's just really evolved, and now it's to be running up front for real. I mean, we ran and the times were good, but we weren't consistently there. Now, the last 3 years, we're consistently there, and it comes down to so many different factors. And you look around, and even teams that you really respect aren't firing on all those cylinders, and all it takes is one little part of it to not be perfect, and you're not going to run in the front with the group. And it's just it's become really laborious. I mean, we have multiple race engineers. A lot of thinking goes into it, the planning, and we spend so much time in Baja. We have a cheater's advantage, not just on the routes, but on locations and planning and where the fuel is currently at the PMEXs or whatever.
Yeah, we
know because we were just there usually. And it's still crazy the amount of planning it takes to do it. The peninsula runs are magic, but it's gnarly.
Yeah, it's a lot of effort. What's interesting about you and your team is it's obviously you're not a McMillan, right? You're not building homes. You're not printing money. Not that that's what they're doing, but,
right.
When you look at their equipment.
I understand what you're saying.
And to see where you guys have come from and where you're at currently, it's pretty incredible. And, what do you attribute that to? Is it just more hours in pre-planning or all the above?
Well, I think that we're very fortunate. I believe, and I'm not totally positive, that we're one of two, maybe three trucks that are totally sponsor-funded. And Rob McCachran and us, I would say, are the two that don't come from backgrounds with more capabilities from our families. We've built it on what we have. There's other teams that have great sponsors, whether it's Robbie or BJ or Voss or whatever, but they're not running solely on sponsorship. And I think really the bottom line to it is that we've gotten better because of our communications as a team, as a race team, but also as a sponsor vehicle for promoting the brands that we're involved with. We've gotten better at that as well, communicating. And, we've done things that no other team has done.
Yeah.
And we're still doing it. And I'm really proud of what it's taken to make it all happen, because, the Desert Assassins has so many different looks and faces and so many different people involved. There's no it's a whole team. And it's been really great to see everybody rise to the occasion, no matter what it is, whether it's the racing, the pitting, the adventure trips, the television shows. The Desert Assassins has a lot of people really working hard to take that to that level.
Yeah, and that's what you're most known for, because you have, like you said about this place, it's just open arms to come in, be involved, and be a part of the family and everything. I don't know. I'm sure the sponsors are very appreciative of the relationship with you, but they probably have no idea of the value that they're getting based on the amount of time you're putting into this stuff. I mean, it's all day, every day.
It is, and it's nonstop. The social media, the communications, the talking, the planning, the organization. Really the only thing that I do spend more time on is my daughter and my wife.
Yeah.
And those are the things that are most important to me. And, I've considered not even running our own race team anymore, because I want to spend more time with my family. And it's been a point in contention at times. You know? The wife is still racing, but it's gotten so big and so cumbersome and takes so much effort that it takes away from family. So we've been trying to really focus on the races we want to win, and not mess around with the ancillary races unless we think we need testing or seat time or something like that. But the Baja race is where it's at for us, and that's what we're totally focused on. We're not even – the only races we're slated to race in the States would be testing races for the most part, and maybe the method race in Laughlin, because they're one of our sponsors, and it's a great race.
Yeah, it's a good time.
The problem is it's only 2.5 or 3 weeks before Baja 1000 qualifying in Las Vegas. So that makes it really tough. Anything that's in October is tough for us, even in September, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, talking about your family and maybe getting away from racing a little bit, a lot of our listeners on this show are just interested in Baja in general. Maybe they've come to the show because they're interested in wine and the things that we're doing in the wine business, and or they're racers, or they know some of the guests. When I think about you reintroduced me to Baja after a lot of years away from, I was surfing down there a lot, and you introduced me to the racing program. But what was really cool is you started showing me the small towns and everything in between, and you guys are so good about that. Can you just give us an overview, and we can dig into a little bit about what you think about when you think Baja in your mind?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Baja is I think of the people and how welcoming they are and how stoked they are to see you and how excited they are to interact. And granted, there's always going to be a small percentage anywhere you go that maybe aren't excited, but I have a hard time finding people that are not stoked in Baja. And it's not just about racing or even off-roading, just to see and talk and share. The thing that I think that's really great about the people of Baja is they're willing to share their town and their vibe and their roads and whatever they have going on with anybody that's willing to come and check it out. For me, personally speaking, the worst part of Baja is the race courses and the racing, because you're so focused. When you go to the race, you're really focused, right? And you don't have time to stop at all the places. Yeah. And I can tell people when we're pre-running or whatever, oh, man, right over there, just over this hill is this, and just over here is that, and you just don't have time, So when I think about Baja, I think about the people, and I think about the places that are a little bit less visited. And granted, I love Ensenada and Cabo and La Paz, Loreto. Those are great places, but I like to get out of those places and kind of just go to where there's just no worries. And where you can share with the people. And, there's some great towns along Highway 1 that people don't spend a lot of time in, but there's great people in those towns, whether it's El Rosario, Catavina, which I really love Catavina. The people at Vizcaíno are amazing. No one stops in Vizcaíno. Yeah. But the auto parts store on the east side of the road, the guys there are so stoked, and they give me such a hard time. They love Kurt Leduc. When we go with Kurt, Kurt's the biggest hero, and they just give me a hard time, which is awesome. I'm still earning my stripes. But they're just, phenomenal places. And then, most of the racers are familiar with going down the race course, and their chase guys chase through the whole Conception Bay area or Sea of Cortez side without ever seeing it. Yeah. And personally speaking, I think some of the most visual and epic looking things to see are in Santa Rosalia, and no one ever goes there.
Yeah, talk about a little bit, because there's all these are great towns, and I'm kind of a victim of not being able to stop in a lot of them because of the race scenario. But just talk about one or two of them. Like, what will people see, and what stands out to you as to why it makes them special? I know we talked about the people, but there's a lot more there too.
A lot that we've focused on revolves around the missions or
Mm-hmm.
historical items to stop and see. And I mentioned Santa Rosalia. It's a mining town founded by the Vallejo Mining Company in the 1800s. And there is actually a church there that was designed by Gustav Eiffel,
Mm-hmm.
who's the same person that designed the Statue of Liberty and the Eiffel Tower.
Crazy.
There's only two things designed by Gustav Eiffel in North America. One is the Statue of Liberty, and the other one is this church in Santa Rosalia.
Yeah.
That's tucked back in, away from the highway. And I think we've done a pretty good job of sharing that with people. But what's really great about Santa Rosalia is just the visuals of all the old mining stuff. I mean, literally across the street from the main PMEX is this giant facility that's just still sitting there with no fence around it, which is kind of dangerous. But you can see right in, to what they were doing there. And then the giant smokestack up on top of the hill. I mean, and then on top of that, you're right on the Sea of Cortez.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And it's beautiful. But I think the most beautiful part of Baja probably is when you start getting into Conception Bay, just below Mulegé.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth ever mission was founded in Mulegé. And it's only about an hour and a half north of Loreto, maybe even a little bit less. But some of my favorite spots to take people are like the Two-Sided Beach or El Raquesan.
Mm-hmm.
One of my dad's favorite places, Buenaventura, where Mark and Olivia have some of the best hamburgers in the world.
Now we're talking.
And in the morning they do pancakes. My dad loved the pancakes. He'd recently passed away, so I actually went there and told Olivia that my dad passed. But it's just those magical places where you meet different people, and whether it's people that grew up in Baja or people that came from the mainland to live in Baja,
Mm-hmm.
or it's Americans that are living in Baja. Everybody really has that same vibe. It's a cool. And the places are so beautiful. I personally, San Ignacio, San Juanico, Mulegé area, Conception Bay. It's hard. There's so many great spots, and how do you make the time to go to all of them, right? That's the thing about our trips is people call and they want to go. And they're like, oh, it's not a good time.
Yeah.
Well, it's never a good time. When is it a good time to leave for 10 days
Yeah.
or 5 days, right?
Right.
But you just got to do it. And people are so stuck in their cubicle, so to speak, that they can't get their head out and go see it and do it. And they want to do it. They know they want to do it, but they just don't make the time. And I agree. There's never a good time, but I'm going.
Yeah. Well, and I always tell people once you do make the time and you go, it'll change your life just being down there for a couple days, let alone 10.
Oh yeah, I mean if you can spend some time to see a little bit of the places, like there's off the beaten path places, like there's a full resort, boutique hotel at Bahia de los Sueños, which is just below La Paz by Punta Arena.
Yeah.
Our buddy Steve Games and Scott Conley are involved in, and no one goes there, and it's just this magnificent property right on the water. And it's all yours with these infinity pools and all this stuff, and just no one goes.
So,
not no one, but
Yeah.
people just don't go.
They don't know about. So it is an operation, and it's a place people can go. Because you took me there. It's been a lot of years, but man, that place is incredible.
Well, I think the original vision of selling all the properties and building homes all around there kind of got into like a little bit of a property battle at one point. I'm not totally sure about it, but now everything's back together. They're putting a bunch of money into the property. And it's just a beautiful place, It's just one of those fabulous spots. It's really, for me, that's the start of the East Cape or the end of it, depending on which way you're going.
Yeah.
And that starts the road right below there. It's a really dangerous cliff road, to be honest. I mean, it's sketchy. We race it in Nora.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's so gnarly. I can't believe it. But it's just a beautiful place to go check out. And I love it down there. But then again, it's like, what don't you love on the Baja Peninsula?
Well, and I guess we can't say that enough on the show because we're trying to educate people about what's happening down there. So you mentioned the trips, and I know our listeners as a whole don't understand what those trips are. Can you tell us what the name is of those trips?
We don't have to talk about them. It's cool if you don't
want to. Right. No, we want people to go.
I think we got enough people going. But, we host we're not a tour company.
Mm-hmm.
We're not actively seeking out people to go with us. We host a couple trips. We do allocate spaces to new people.
Yeah.
And work with the Mexican government and do a trip called Trail of Missions, which is a truck trip that goes down the peninsula. Sometimes it's a loop, sometimes it's a car.